My name is Daryl, and welcome to Expert Rope Magic Made Easy. I think we should start at the very beginning. This is the very beginning. What type of rope to use? Now, this you can find in any hardware store, department stores. This is clothesline, ordinary clothesline. Now, if you can find it untreated, that's the best. Sometimes it's treated with a waxy substance, and that should be soaked in water so that it'll be more pliable, a lot easier to work with. If it has a core, and most ropes do, one of the things you'll need to do to make the rope more supple and easier to work with is take the core out. All you have to do is fray the end a little bit, pull it out like this, and pull it out like that, and you can get rid of this, and what you're left with is a very supple piece of rope that's excellent for rope manipulations, false knots, that type of thing. Now, the best rope to use comes from the magic shop. It's already been cored, and it looks much better, and it's a lot easier to work with. It comes in several different colors as well. Lovely shades of blue, pink, yellow, red. It's very, very good stuff. In fact, this is 100% cotton, so if you dip the ends in glue, allow it to dry just for a few moments until it's like tacky, then you can press the pieces together like this, and you can make a lovely multicolored piece of rope, which is very good for blendo type effects. Also, you can use heavy string, yarn. In fact, yarn comes in several different colors. This is very nice to work with. You can also do these tricks with different colored ribbons. That's very nice. Now also, if you go to a shop that sells boating supplies, you can find very heavy nylon rope. This is very good, very slick, and it looks very nice on stage. Also, if you go to a material shop, you can find velvet cord in several different colors. This is very good for finger ring and rope tricks. Also, it comes with several other kinds of cord as well. So you can go to material shops, you can go to a place that sells ropes for mountain climbing. You have many, many choices. So that's the first thing. Select the type of rope you're going to use. Any questions so far? Okay. The next thing you'll have to do is prepare the ends. Some performers don't prepare the ends, and this is what they get. I don't know about you, but this doesn't look quite right for rope magic. If you're going to do something like the cut and restored rope, then you don't necessarily want to tape the ends or glue the ends or knot the ends, anything like that. What you would do is you would just cut the end right before using the rope. If you don't prepare the ends, it looks like this. That's not so good. A very simple method is to take tape, like cloth tape. This happens to be white cloth tape, adhesive tape for like bandages, and you just wrap that around the end. You can leave a little bit like this. That gives it a nice little look. If you don't want to do something fancy like that, you could just tie a knot in the end of the rope like this. A nice tight knot at the end. That gives it a good finish. This is another method that's actually pretty interesting. You tuck the ends inward. Now, to do this, you need a very special tool, which is available at magic shops everywhere, or you can go down to a local stationery store and buy one. Just an ordinary pen. Here's a hot tip. When you use this instrument, make sure that the tip of the pen is inside. That way you won't accidentally color the rope as you tuck it in. So what you do is you take something like this, you trim it, you tuck the ends inside, the little strands inside, and you poke them in. That gives you this. So that keeps the ends from fraying. Another method is to use clear tape. Now you can do it loosely or you can do it pretty tight like this. This gives it almost like a shoestring tip appearance. That's a good method as well. Another way is to take thread, ordinary thread, white thread, colored thread if you'd like. You wrap it around the end several times and then you tie a few knots. That gives you this. Colored thread looks good, or colored tape looks good if you're doing something like the linking ropes where it's very obvious where the ends are. For example, if you use colored tape for the cut and restored rope, that won't work very well. As you'll see later in the series, when you do the cut and restored rope, very often you're not actually cutting the middle of the rope, but you're secretly cutting one of the ends. So you can imagine if you start with a piece of rope that has colored tape on both ends, then you apparently cut the middle, and when you restore the rope, now there's only colored tape on one end. That pretty much gives the secret away. So there's certain times to use this, and there's other times when it's not a good idea. My personal favorite method, very simple, white glue. Elmer's glue, wood glue, any kind of white glue that dries clear. All you do is you make a little puddle of glue on a scrap piece of paper. You take the end, you trim it first, nice clean trim. You dip the end in the puddle of glue, and you just sort of roll it between your fingers, and you allow it to dry. So that's several methods for preparing the ends to keep them from fraying. Okay, let's talk a little bit about basic knots. The most basic knot of all, of course, is this, the simple overhand knot. That's all there is to it. There are two ways to tie the overhand knot. Let's cover them both. One method is to take left, that would be this side, left over right. So the left end goes over the right end. It goes around and through. So this would be considered a left over right overhand knot. Now, just as easily, you could tie a right over left knot. The right end goes over the left end. It goes around and through. So they're both basically overhand knots, but sometimes you need to tie a right over left knot. Other times you need a left over right knot. Now this is called the slide-off knot. It's really nothing more than an ordinary overhand knot, and it can be a left over right or a right over left. It doesn't really matter. The thing is, if you keep it sort of open, loose, don't tighten it up, you can take your other hand, grab it, and slide it right off the rope and make it disappear. Very simple thing to do. All you have to do is put your thumb or your index finger or your ring finger inside, and when you move down, it will slide right off the rope. Now here's a nice little subtlety. When you tie the overhand knot like this, turn your hand so the audience doesn't see your thumb. It's hidden behind your hand. As you reach for the knot, secretly put your thumb right into the loop, like this. And you pull down, it takes the knot right off. Now here's a nice little tip. If you happen to have a knot previously hidden in your hand like this, you can tie an ordinary overhand knot like that. It looks like a regular knot because it is. No tricks, not yet. Here it comes. You reach, you slide it off, and there it is. So that's called the slide-off knot. Now, this is how to construct the fake knot. There's two ways to do this. Both work. One's a little better than the other. I'll show you what I mean. You just tie an ordinary overhand knot like this. It can be a right over left or a left over right. It doesn't matter. Pull the knot as tightly as you'd like. Get a pair of sharp scissors and trim as close to the knot as possible. Now, to prevent the knot from coming apart, you take a little bit of white glue, put it on side like that, tap it down, and that keeps the knot holding its shape. That's one way to do it. It works pretty well. But here's a better method that I think looks a lot nicer. You tie the knot, first of all, and then you pull the knot pretty tight. You want it tighter than you would like the finished product to be. Then you trim, you cut with a pair of sharp scissors, about here and here. So there's a little bit of extra rope. You dip those in glue. You wait a few minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, so that the glue is tacky. It's not quite dried hard, but then it's not totally liquidy either. You just put the two ends together, and you roll them. That will give you this. This is an expanded view. So you just sort of put the ends together, you roll it, then you allow it to dry. And like I said, this is an expanded view. If you allow it to dry, you'll end up with this. You put those two ends together, and then you hide the part where it's joined together underneath one layer of the rope, and you have this. Now this you can actually hand out for examination. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. So that's how to tie or how to construct the fake knot. Another very basic knot is the square knot, also known as the reef knot. This is how to tie a square knot. Once again, just like the overhand knot, there are two different methods. One is right over left, left over right, and the other is just the opposite. This is a square knot. One overhand knot, a second overhand knot tied in the opposite direction, and that makes a square knot. I'll give you more details in just a moment. But right now I want you to recognize what a square knot looks like. Notice that the tops and the bottoms of the ropes are parallel. That's a square knot. Now there's a way to upset the square knot. All you do is you take one of the strands of rope, you pull it taut, completely straight, and that forms a hitch knot on the second piece, which will actually slide right off the rope like this. Now let me go into detail on how to tie this. Like I said before, there's two methods. One is left over right, right over left. I'll explain that first. The left goes over the right. It goes around and through. That's an overhand knot. Now you tie a right over left. So now the right end goes over the left end, around and through, and there's a square knot. Like I said before, you just pull on either one of the strands. It doesn't matter. They're both the same, and it will slide right off like this. And that's how to tie a square knot. Occasionally, you don't use the square knot to tie two separate pieces of rope together. You use it to tie two ends of a single piece. It's done exactly the same as if they were two separate pieces, like this. Once in a while, particularly for the Panama rope trick, which will be coming up later, you tie a square knot in the middle of the rope. It's done exactly the same way. Let me show you from this end. Say, for example, right over left. It's just that you're not using both ends. You just tie it in the middle. The right goes over the left, around and through, and now the left goes over the right, around and through. So it's still a square knot, as you can see, but now it's tied near the middle of the rope. Next, we have what is called the granny knot, or the lubber's knot. Lubber as in the land lubber. It's a sailor who talks about a landlubber who doesn't know how to tie a square knot. It always comes out as a granny knot. Granny knot is also two overhand knots. The difference is both overhand knots are tied in exactly the same way. A square knot, remember, you start off with right over left, and then you follow it with left over right. Whereas a granny knot, you do this. You say, for example, right over left, around and through, and the second knot is also right over left, around and through. That gives you a granny knot. Now you can recognize a granny knot because the ends of the rope are not parallel, they're perpendicular like this. Now here's a hot tip. If you ever find yourself on the edge of a cliff and you have two pieces of rope that you need to tie together, use a square knot. Now I'm going to use this slick nylon rope. Here's a square knot. Right over left, left over right. Remember how it looks? The ends are parallel. That's a square knot. This will hold two pieces of rope. In fact, you can bet your life on it. Whereas, if you tie a granny knot, it looks similar, but it's not exactly the same. I'll show you what I mean. Right over left, and you follow that with another right over left. You see that's a granny knot. If you pull on this, it loosens up, and that's not so good. So that's the difference between a granny knot and a square knot. One more thing, just like a square knot, a granny knot can also be upset. All you have to do is take one piece of rope, pull it taut, and that makes a hitch knot out of the other piece, and that will slide right off. So that is a granny knot. This is the quick slip knot. This is what it looks like from the front. You just take the middle of the rope like that, and quickly make a slip knot. That's all there is to it. Watch closely. Grab the middle of the rope with your left hand, palm towards the audience. You put your first two fingers inside of the loop. You turn your hand palm towards yourself. You clip between the first two fingers the upper strand of the rope like this. You pull that clipped piece through, and that gives you a quick slip knot. Next, we have the slow motion slip knot, and there's two different ways to tie this. The first one looks just like this. You make a loop, you pass the end through the loop, and you pull. This, believe it or not, is a slip knot. Now to do this, all you do is you hold the rope about like that. You make a loop going away from your body toward the audience with your right hand. With your left hand, you hold where the pieces cross. You let the end fall forward, away from you, toward the audience. That's the first step. Then with your right hand, you reach through the loop, grab the end, pull it towards you through the loop like this, and when you pull the knot, your left thumb tip actually pushes a little bite of the rope into the loop like this, and you're tying a slip knot basically around your thumb. You use the first two fingers of your left hand to reach over and tighten the knot. So that is how to tie a slow motion slip knot. Once again, at regular speed, you make the loop, you reach through, and there it is. Slow motion slip knot. Here's another way to tie a slow motion slip knot. You just cross one end over the other like this, and you pull through like that. It looks similar, but it is a little bit different. Now for this, you hold the rope maybe in about the middle. You cross the right over the left. Once again, your left thumb holds where they cross. You reach through, pull it towards yourself. The tip of the thumb goes inside, and that gives you another version of a slow motion slip knot. Here's a couple of tips for the slip knot. Here's a good tip. Laymen know that this is a slip knot. So don't tie your slip knot like this. If you tie this slip knot, whether you do version 1 or version 2, use your fingers to sort of flatten out the knot. It looks a lot better like this, okay? So I just tell you this because I've seen people tie slip knots and they sort of forget to make it look like a regular knot, okay? Another little tip is the angle. If you tied a regular knot, it looks like the rope is going straight down through the knot. It goes down, it makes the knot, and it continues. If you tie a slip knot, and if you're not careful, you'll get an angle or a little bite This is not good. This sort of gives it away. See how the rope kind of goes in, makes the knot, and then it goes out again. So when you make the slip knot, remember, flatten it out between your hands as you're apparently tightening it, like that, and you've got a nice looking knot. Apparently a real knot, but actually we know better. It's a slip knot. This is the fake knot. Well, you don't tell the audience it's a fake knot. I'm just telling you. What you do is you take the rope, you tie a knot like this. Oh man, what a nice looking knot. And there's different ways to do this. One is you can pull it very, very tightly, sort of massage the knot a little bit, and pluck it right off. That's the fake knot. All this is, of course, is an ordinary slip knot and the extra fake knot. You could start with the fake knot hidden in your hand. You tie the slip knot. Any method will work. Just tie a slip knot. And one thing you can do is you can hold it like this. Remember, this is hidden here. You can pretend to slide it off the rope and show it this way. That's a good method. Here's another method that's a little more subtle. You can start like this. You make the slip knot. You show the slip knot, and you actually lay it across the palm of the hand. Remember, this is still hidden here. In the act of tightening the knot, you load, I just loaded the extra knot into the hand. Do a little slidini action there. You massage it. You can pinch the two together. It's actually off, but you just pinch it together like this, blow on it, do a little massaging action, and pluck the knot off like that. Now, if for some reason you feel uncomfortable palming the slip knot or palming the fake knot in your hand, you could start with the fake knot in your pocket like this. That way your hands are empty. You show just an ordinary piece of rope. Very slowly and fairly, you tie a knot in the middle of the rope like this. Then you say, all I need now is a little bit of magic dust. Ah, I have some in my pocket. Reach into your pocket, take out the magic dust, secretly palming the knot off as well. Psst, psst, put the magic dust on the knot, slide it off, and there you have it. This is the Tony Lapelato knot, which I understand was invented by Mr. Tony Lapelato. Start off with a piece of rope like this. Just sort of drape it over the back of the wrist. You make the hitch, pass the ends through, and you get a mess. But it's a dissolving mess. This is all you have to do. You start with the rope like this. You put the middle over the back of your left wrist. Clip the ends like that. Actually, what you're going to do is let the middle fall off the wrist. All that does is it forms a hitch knot. You take the two ends, they go through the double loop of the hitch knot. You grab one in each hand and slowly pull. Now, you don't actually have to put the middle of the rope over the back of your wrist and do all of this stuff. I found out from experience that it's a lot easier to just make the hitch knot like this. You just grab the middle with the pincher fingers, thumb and first finger, just sort of pinch the two ropes like this. That makes the hitch knot, so it's sort of a double loop. The two ends go through, whoosh, grab one in each hand, and you have a dissolving knot. This is called the pull-away knot. It's similar to the previous knot, just another way of tying it. You start off with the rope like this. You just sort of casually drape it over your hand like that. You reach through, grab the ends, clip them like this, and that gives you the pull-away knot. Okay? All you do is you drape it over your hand like this. So you have the middle about here. You just reach through with your other hand, clip the two ends, pull them through the middle. All that does is it ties a hitch knot around your left fingers. Then you clip both ends between the first and second finger of the left hand. You just sort of pull the loop off your hand, grab one in each hand like this, and pull. That's why it's called the pull-away knot. This is the kefalo knot. You start with a rope like this. You just tie a square knot. So far, so what? To make it extra tough, you take one end of the rope like this, pass it through here, pass it through here. Oh, man, what a mess. But you say the magic words, kefalo, and it dissolves like the fading of a mirage upon the desert dust. There's really nothing much to the kefalo knot. It's simply a square knot. Right over left. That's the first half. Oh, here's another little tip, by the way. If you ever start to tie a knot and you find that the rope twists like this, or you get kinks, all you have to do is run it through your hand a few times. In theory, we'll find out. And that should take away the extra unwanted twists. So here's the kefalo knot. Right over left, that's the first half of the square knot. The second half would be, remember, left over right. So that's basically a very loose and open square knot. All you do is you take one of the ends, say the end in the right hand, push it through like that, pull it back, and through the upper loop. Now this is where it goes through, just like this. Now if you put one in each hand, you can very slowly dissolve the knot. A la kefalo. Here's a little variation on the kefalo knot. Just like before, you tie an ordinary kefalo knot, not to be confused with a tricky kefalo knot. So that's the first half, the square knot. Remember, one end goes through like that, it comes through like this, and the only difference is now you tie a square knot with the ends. So this way, when you vanish the kefalo knot, you end up with just a simple loop of rope. Nothing much to explain here, it's just the kefalo knot, but to make sure you don't accidentally cheat, you tie the ends together. So when you finish vanishing or dissolving the knot, you end up with a lovely picture. Here's an interesting knot that goes by many names. The hunter bow knot is one, the magic shoelaces, the schoolboy knot. Here's what it is. You tie a bow like this. In fact, here's the presentation. When you were a young boy or girl, and used to tie your shoes like this, the bow knot, did you find that while playing in the playground you used to get the ends through the loops? Well, if that's ever happened to you, of course you know what you get. Oh man, a big mess. This used to happen to me. In fact, very often I'd have to sleep with my shoes on. But then I decided to become a magician, and I realized that if you pull the knot very, very tightly, then gently massage it, it will vanish. Hence the name, the vanishing hunter bow knot. To do this, it's very simple. There's two ways. Let me show you the easiest way first. You make two loops like this. You hold where it crosses, and then you make a second loop like that. With your right first finger and thumb, you pinch this part. With your left first finger and thumb, you pinch this part. Now, if you pull those loops through, you get a bow. Now, this is very important. Watch closely. One end goes through like that, but the second end, you have to turn the loop over first before you pull it through. This is the hunter bow knot, or the schoolboy knot. It will dissolve. It will dissolve every time, but only if you tie it properly. You'll find out the hard way. If you mess up, it won't dissolve. That's the one way to do it. Let me show you a second way. This is my personal preference. All you do is you hold the rope like this. First two fingers and thumb of each hand. You make sort of a backwards N like this. You reach in with your thumb, with both hands, and you're going to pinch here and here. Now you pull that through. And now you're right back where you started from, so you bring the ends through the loops like this and like this. And when you pull, of course, the knot will dissolve. Now let me show you what that looks like from the front. Once again, here's a quick, easy way to do it. You just go, whoosh, and there's the bow. The ends go through, and it really does tighten very well. It looks like a good, solid knot until you're ready to dissolve it, and then it vanishes. Now, like any other vanishing knot, like the slip knot, you can, of course, have a knot hidden in your hand. In fact, this can be hidden in your hand while you're tying the whole knot like this, right in front of the audience. It will not be exposed. You put the ends through the loops, and like I showed you a little while ago, you can secretly either slide it off and show this one, or you can lay the knot across the palm of the hand, and in the act of tightening it, you secretly load this knot in as the hands come together. Here's a little tip. You can show the knot once again and hold it in the secret grip. This is the secret grip. So now it looks like you can actually slide it down the rope. That's actually a nice touch. What happens is you put your middle finger on top, thumb on the bottom. The first finger is in the back. Now if you do this with the rope here, it actually should look like the knot is threaded on the rope. So you can slide it, pinch it together, and then pluck it right off. This is the hunter bow knot, or the schoolboy knot. So we're teaching you lots of basic knots, but how you combine them is entirely up to you. You're limited, of course, only by your imagination. A man by the name of John Braun decided to combine two knots together, the hunter bow knot and the kefalo knot. So let me show you what he did. You tie the bow, the ends go through the loops. As you know by now, that makes a horrible, horrible mess. But just to make it even worse, or better, depending upon your point of view, you can tie another knot on top of that, Another knot on top of that. Oh my gosh. And then just to make it even worse, I'll put this through here and this through here. This will take hours and hours to dissolve, unless, of course, you're a magician. Then you blow and pull. Hop! Ladies and gentlemen, isn't magic wonderful? As you may have noticed, this is just two knots put together, the combination of the two. Once again, the hunter bow knot. You make the bow. The ends go through the loops like this. And when you pull this, you pull it pretty tightly, like that. Now, on top of this, you just tie a regular kafalo knot, which is, as you'll recall, right over left, left over right. It's the loose square knot. And like I showed you before, one end goes through the bottom. It comes towards you and out through the top like this. So you've got a kafalo knot on top of the hunter schoolboy knot. And when you pull, everything dissolves, and you're left like that. This is called the bang-o knot. One of the nice things about doing the research in gathering material for these videos is I learned a lot about rope tricks and rope knots myself. This is something I never heard of, never saw it before, and it actually works. You have a knot in a piece of rope like this. All I'm going to do is pull on the knot, make it vanish, but watch, and more importantly, listen. The bang-o knot. Now, this is just a slip knot. Any version of the slip knot, you do this in advance. Don't do this in front of the audience. You tie a slip knot backstage before you come out. And to get that bang effect, you need a little something extra. What is this I have here at this time, pray tell? Snappers. That's what these are called, little snappers. You find these in novelty shops. What you do is you throw them on the ground and they pop. Some places call them poppers. You just take one, you fold the little tail. What it is, I think it's a little bit of gunpowder perhaps, and little pebbles or little pieces of rock. So, by the way, I should tell you, this is dangerous. If you're doing this close up, it might be a good idea to hand out goggles to various members of the audience that are up close. Personally, I would wait and use this on stage when you're a considerable distance from the audience. Anyway, you take one of these poppers, one of these little snappers, you fold the tail in. That's a good idea. Otherwise, you'll have a knot with a little tail hanging out. Not the preferred technique. You fold up the little tail, slip it inside of the slip knot, inside of the loop, and you pull the slip knot closed like that. Now, what's going to happen is when you pull, the friction, yeah, good idea, huh? The friction from the slip knot will, in theory, pop the popper or bang the banger, depending on where you bought them. And if you do it all together, you get a little something like this. And I'm not kidding. It's a good idea to close your eyes when you do this because it does shoot out little dust, little rocks. Ready? Watch. All right, I got lucky. Yeah, I'm okay. That's the bang-o knot. This is called the dissolving double knot. It can be done with handkerchiefs. In fact, that's the way Charlie Miller used to do this, the whistling knot trick. Or you can do it with a piece of rope, two separate pieces of rope, or the two ends of a single piece. It's entirely up to you. All you do is you just put them like this, and you go, tie a knot, and then you go, tie a second knot, and you can actually have a spectator pull on these ends very tightly. So you've got a double knot. All you have to do is blow or whistle, and almost visually, the knot will dissolve right in front of their eyes. Now, this whole thing is a swindle. Let me show you. You don't actually tie a double knot, okay? So I lied. But you fake it. You start by pretending to tie a single knot, but what you really do is this. You just cross the ropes. You go through the action of pretending to tie a knot, but what you really do is you just cross one over the other, and in the action of pretending to tie the first knot, you just get into this position, okay? So there's nothing special about it. You just pretend to tie a knot, and you end up like this. But of course, keep your fingers closed around it so the audience doesn't know that. On top of this, then you tie an ordinary single overhand knot. And if you're holding both ropes like this, you can pull very tightly. If you hold onto the ropes like this, you can actually let the spectator pull on the ends, okay? And to dissolve it, all you have to do is very slowly pull it apart. And it will actually, almost in slow motion, come apart. That is the dissolving double knot. Now, what is known as the grandmother's necklace principle. It's called the grandmother's necklace because this is the original way it was done. A couple of pieces of string with some beads or pearls threaded on them. To make it extra secure, what I'll do is I'll tie a knot over the whole dang dog and deal like this. All I have to do is a little blow like this. Watch closely. Oh, and as if by magic, all the beads come free. Now, this is a very interesting principle, and there are many, many applications. Allow me to demonstrate. You might wonder, well, what does this have to do with rope? Oh, let's say you happen to have a pocket handkerchief, which can, of course, be borrowed. You happen to have, oh, say, a couple of harness rings or bracelets. You can borrow those as well. And a couple pieces of rope, good, strong, solid rope, like this. Now, all you have to do is take the handkerchief like that, tie it around the middle of the rope like this with a regular overhand knot. Okay? You can lace anything you'd like onto the ropes at this point, coffee cups, borrowed finger rings, bracelets, harness rings, anything that will fit. Now, this is basically the same trick I just showed you with the beads, except now you're doing it with handkerchief, pieces of rope, and bracelets. To make it extra secure, just like before, you tie a knot over the whole deal like this. And just like before, all you have to do is blow, a little pull, ho-ho, and everything comes free. Everything can be handed out for examination. This is the grandmother's necklace principle. Here is the explanation to the grandmother's necklace principle. It's a very simple idea. The audience believes that you have two strings or two pieces of rope that are parallel to each other like this. Actually, that's not the case. What you really have is each rope has been folded in half like this, and you attach the two middles with a piece of thread like that. Now, you just loop it through like this and like that. You tie it with a square knot. That way, it will stay tied. That's important. You don't want, you don't want the knot to come out too early. That would give the trick away. So I tie usually 2 or 3 knots just to make it extra secure. Then you trim off the ends of the thread. That's important. You don't want any little pieces of thread dangling. That would give it away as well. Okay? Now, you could start with it like this. In fact, that's the original grandmother's necklace. Remember when I had the beads? Well, this secret join in the middle was covered with the beads. So the audience believed that you just had 2 strings side by side. A better way to do this is to start with the ropes actually parallel, and the thread is in the middle, but the audience will never see it, especially if you hide it with your hand. You don't have to be too careful about it. You could start like this. I don't think anybody is going to suspect anything. It just looks like 2 pieces of rope. You can pull on it, show that it's nice and strong, transfer the threaded portion to the other hand, pull on that as well, nice and strong. This hand is empty. When you grab the middle, right here is where the thread is, when you grab the middle, all you do is you secretly open it up, starting to form like an X. You grab it this way as you reach for the handkerchief. Now, the audience doesn't realize this, but actually, you're in this position here. So you've got the handkerchief, and what you want to do is you want to hide that threaded section in the middle with the knot in the handkerchief. So you put the handkerchief over the middle of the rope like that, and just to give you a little extra cover, I would loop the handkerchief around an extra revolution like this. Instead of just tying an ordinary overhand knot, I would give it 1 extra complete revolution around the middle of the ropes. Now you can tie an overhand knot on top. So that effectively hides that secret joining of the middles of the ropes. Now from here, you can thread anything you'd like onto the ropes. Borrowed bracelets is good, coffee cups, anything that's like a ring, any kind of ring. And that's all there is to it. Now to make it extra secure, you take either end, either side, it doesn't matter, and you tie an overhand knot on top. All right? Now that looks actually very convincing. All you have to do is pull. That will break the thread, and everything will come free, like this. Those can be handed out. This can be handed out. Everything can be examined. That is the grandmother's necklace principle. Ladies and gentlemen, the chords of Fantasia. Watch closely. An ordinary magic wand, the kind you can buy in any magic shop. 2 pieces of rope. I haven't cheated yet. It's coming up. Watch, I'll tie the ropes onto the magic wand like this, and I will take a lovely harness ring like that, another harness ring like this, definitely looped onto the ropes, no question about it. In fact, I'll even take a couple of lovely silk handkerchiefs and tie those on as well. So now we've got rings, ropes, the magic wand, and 2 handkerchiefs of silk, all tied together. Oh man, what a mess. To make it extra special, I'll tie the whole dang dog and deal together like that. All messed up. All I have to do is take the wand, give it a little tap like this, a little passe, and ladies and gentlemen, the mystery of the chords of Fantasia. Now, you may have recognized this as being something like the grandmother's necklace, and it's very similar. The only difference is there is no advanced preparation. You do not have to tie the middle of the ropes together. This is called the chords of Fantasia. This was by Ottokar Fischer. I believe he was the first to use this principle. He used to use, instead of rings, he had 4 or 6 or 8 silk handkerchiefs and a fan. He would put the fan on the middle of the rope, tie all the silks together, then he would take the fan, give a quick little fan, and all the silks would penetrate through. All you have to do is take the ropes or the string if you're doing this up close. You don't have to have a real magic wand. You can use a pencil in an impromptu situation, and you just drape the ropes over the middle of the wand like this. Then right in front of everyone, you just tie a simple overhand knot with the doubled ropes like that, and there you have it. Now you can tie the silks on, or you can put the rings on. It doesn't make any difference what order this is done. All you have to do now is tie the silks on like this, ordinary knots, nothing tricky. And all you have to do is remove the magic wand, and everything will be coming free, if and only if you tie a single overhand knot above everything. And just like all the versions of grandmother's necklace, it doesn't make any difference which end you use. You can say, hand me one of the 2 ends. The spectator gives you one from here, either one from there. You tie these like that. Now, if you remove the magic wand, do a little something like this, everything is free, and everything can be completely examined. And that is the chords of Fantasia. Ladies and gentlemen, ropes and cups, and of course the world-famous magic wand. Watch closely. All you do is you put the ropes on the middle of the magic wand, a very simple overhand knot, just like that. So there's the overhand knot. I'll thread the cups on. No cheating at all. It definitely goes through. It goes through both ends here as well. And I will secure everything with a real overhand knot, just like this. All right? In fact, just for more fun, I'll secure these cups as well. So we have 2 cups, by the way, that are breakable. Those would be the black cups. And 2 cups that are not breakable. Those are the red cups. Now, how do you know that the red cups are non-breakable and the black cups are breakable? Well, I'll show you. Just a little pass with the magic wand, a little snap, and believe it or not, ho! The non-breakable cups will crash to the floor, leaving the breakable cups safely on the ropes. Now, this is, of course, another variation of the chords of Fantasia. Just one little touch that you might want to keep in mind. You can have whatever you put on the ropes either fall to the floor or stay on the ropes, depending on when they are attached. I'll show you what I mean. Everything is exactly the same as the original chords of Fantasia. You have a magic wand or a pencil or some kind of a stick, a drumstick. It doesn't matter what you use. You take the middles of the 2 ropes and place them over the magic wand like this. A simple overhand knot. You just cross, go around like this, and through. All that is it's an overhand knot tied around the magic wand. Now, quite honestly, if you were to pull the magic wand out at this point, you would have nothing. That's what makes the trick work. So it's basically the same as the grandmother's necklace, but you don't have the middle secretly tied with thread. You just do it right in front of everybody by tying it over the magic wand. So there's the middle of the ropes on the wand. You just make the overhand knot like this. And now you're basically where you would be with the grandmother's necklace trick. You can thread anything you'd like onto the ropes. If you thread it through both ropes like this, at this point, before the wand is removed and before the overhand knot is tied with a single strand of rope, these cups will stay on. Oh, here's a good tip. Put the breakable cups... No, that's right. I fooled myself. See? This stuff is very, very amazing. I fool myself, and even I know how it works. You put the non-breakable cups on first. This is what will fall. When you tie the overhand knot now on top, and if I was to pull the wand out right now, these cups would fall to the ground. But since I've already switched ends by tying the overhand knot now, I can thread anything else on at this point, and whatever is threaded on at this point will stay on the rope. So these are the breakable cups that you want to stay on. That's a very important point. So if you're borrowing fine china and using tin cups from your case, be sure that you put on the fine china cups after you've tied the overhand knot. Okay? So you pull out the wand, you do the little magic, and everything will fall free except for whatever was placed onto the ropes after the overhand knot was tied. So this is called, what is this called? Ropes and cups. Solid piece of rope, and a second solid piece of rope as well. Two solid pieces of rope, and this could be a borrowed handkerchief and borrowed finger rings or bracelets. It doesn't matter exactly what you use. The trick is, very simply, you take a handkerchief, tie it around the middle of the ropes like this. I'll do this very slowly and fairly so that you can see this is an ordinary knot. Oh, man, what a mess. A double knot, as a matter of fact. Oh, yeah, that ought to do it. Hoi. And now we loop on the bracelets or the finger rings, if you're doing this up close with string. That's good. And to make it extra special, I'll tie an overhand knot over everything. So here we have it, just a little blow, and instantly and almost visually, ho, ladies and gentlemen, we have a penetration extraordinaire. Now this is another version of the grandmother's necklace. This is called the improved grandmother's necklace. This is by Harold Rice. And what he has done is very interesting. He came up with a method where you do not have to prepare the ropes in advance. Normally for the grandmother's necklace, you have to tie the middles of the ropes together with thread. But in this version, you actually start with two ordinary pieces of rope. All you do is you display one piece, fold it in half, and place it over the right hand like this. Now the middle of the rope is over the top of the hand. You display the second rope in the same way. It's solid, fold it in half. Now here, what you do is you hold it in the right hand, but between the first and second fingers. Then you misdirect the audience. You show the handkerchief, which is on the table. While they're busy looking there, all you do is this. You clip between the first and second finger, the top of the rope. You grab here, and you tilt your hand. That causes this to happen. Then in one continuing action, you fold this over, and you hide all of that in your hand. Now this is done very quickly, and it should look like you're just taking the ropes off the back of your hand. But actually you have prepared by secretly looping the middle of one rope through the middle of the other. Let me do this again at regular speed. There's one rope, there's the second rope, and here's the handkerchief. When they finish showing the handkerchief, you get the ropes, you do that, and you're all set. So that's the secret maneuver. Now you want to hide this somehow, and that's where the handkerchief comes in. You just take the handkerchief, put the middle of the handkerchief over the middle of the ropes that are secretly looped around, and you tie a knot. Now what I'd like to do is to give it an extra complete revolution with the silk handkerchief around the middles of the ropes. That gives you a little extra cover in hiding that secret bite, because you don't want the audience to see that secret bite. Okay? Now you can put anything you want on the ropes. Coffee cups, for example, borrowed finger rings, bracelets, it doesn't matter what you use. You can even tie more silk handkerchiefs. That's okay as well. And now you're basically at the same grandmother's necklace principle that you were if you had the secret thread tied, but you didn't have to tie it in advance. You do it right in front of the audience. You tie a knot over everything like this, and all you have to do now is pull on the ropes. Everything will fall free. And this is Harold Rice's improved grandmother's necklace. Ladies and gentlemen, the great coat escape. Watch closely. Two pieces of solid rope, the best money can buy. Not only do I use two pieces of rope, but also my coat. Watch closely. The ends of the rope go through the sleeves. Slow motion. Every move, a picture. Just like this, and just like that. Watch closely. They go through. All I have to do now is put the coat on like this, and like this. Actually, you can get volunteers from the audience to come up and help, or you could do it all by yourself. Ah, what a lovely ensemble. Now we take the ropes like this. Any end, doesn't make any difference. You tie a real overhand knot, just like that. Now the idea is just to say the magic words, Shanna Manna Zanna, and on the count of three, these puppies will go 1, 2, 3, whoosh, right through. Ladies and gentlemen, a penetration extraordinaire. Now you may have recognized this as the grandmother's necklace principle. Well, if you did, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is. All you do is you set this up in advance by taking these two long pieces of rope. Now for this, they should be about 10, 11, 12 feet, something like that. 5 or 6 foot lengths just aren't quite long enough. You set up by folding each one in half, then you tie the two middles together. Once again, you use thread, something that's relatively easy to break when the time is right, just like that. This goes through, a double knot at least, but if you're a true professional, you might want to tie a triple knot. Yeah, so that goes through like this, and that's all there is to it. Oh, no, there's one more little tip, one more important little tip. That is trim the ends. Whoops, I have no scissors. That's all right, I'll fake it. So you start like this. The ropes are parallel. After you show the ropes, of course, at this point in the routine, your coat is off. And you can also do this with a volunteer from the audience, where you can get somebody from the audience, have the gentleman remove his coat, and you can do this whole thing with a spectator. So here's what you do. After you show the ropes are solid, you reach for the coat. You just make a little X like this. You grab the middle. So what you're really doing is that. You hide this with your hand. You take the jacket, and you hold the jacket with the same hand that holds the ropes. Now you reach into the sleeve all the way inside, and you grab two of the ropes, pull them right through like that. That part's done. Just transfer it to the other hand. Do exactly the same thing here. Reach into the sleeve, all the way up, pull it through, and the trick is almost finished. All you have to do now is put the coat on like that and like this, and you don't forget to tie the overhand knot. That's very important. Doesn't matter which end you use, either one will work. Tie a simple overhand knot. Now when you're ready for the penetration, you just grab it as close to your body. Tie the knot pretty tightly around your body. Grab as close to your body as you can, get a good firm grip, and when you're ready, just pull forward. That will break the thread, and you have the penetration extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, the great coat escape. Ladies and gentlemen, watch. Walking through ropes. Good, strong, solid pieces of rope, no question about it. And they go behind the back. All you do is you tie just a regular overhand knot like this. The idea is to penetrate the ropes through the body without any serious damage to the ropes. Watch closely. 1, 2, 3, hop! Ladies and gentlemen, walking through ropes. Now this is once again the grandmother's necklace principle. The setup is the same as always. You just take the ropes, fold them in half, and this is good to use longer lengths of rope. About 10 feet long is about right. And you fold this one in half as well, and you tie the middles together with a piece of thread, which I just happen to have right here. So you tie them together with 2 or 3 knots. Square knot is first. That's a good thing to do. And then you trim the ends. Now this is all done, of course, backstage before the performance. Very important tip. So now it's all ready to go. Now you can start with the ropes actually parallel to each other like this. That way you can show them cleanly, nothing in your hands. The middle is right about there. It's hard to see, but it's there, the thread. Now you show that it's nice and solid. Transfer the threaded middles to the other hand, nice and solid. Show that your stomach and your body is nice and solid. You can even have volunteers from the audience come up to examine you. And under cover of that misdirection, your left hand starts to open up the ropes, getting a little space between them. So now when you transfer the ropes to your right hand just goes like this, right in between. Now you've got that secret loop in the middle, okay? All you do is you put both things behind your back, bring them out like this, and now you're all ready for the grandmother's necklace principle, but instead of using beads, you're using your body. You just make an overhand knot with any 2 of the ropes. It doesn't make any difference. Just one from the left side, one from the right side. In fact, you can actually let the spectator choose which ends to be tied. Bring the knot as close to your body as you can, and you're all ready to pull. That breaks the thread, and you get an instant penetration. And that's the explanation to walking through the ropes. There are many, many tricks that you can do while your wrists are tied. So, would you mind?
I'd love to.
Oh, I'm sure. Please, tie my wrists.
Okay.
Tie my wrists, please. and give it a good double or triple knot. It's very important, by the way, that when your wrists are tied, that you make sure that the audience fully understands that you cannot secretly untie the knots while you're under the table or under cover of a jacket, something like that. So if you'll tie the other one as well, because what's going to happen, several different tricks that you can do while your wrists are tied, but you have to do them out of sight, either, like I say, under cover of a handkerchief or a jacket, behind a screen, under the table. And it's silly because if you go under the table and if I mess around for a while, the audience might think, well, he's just untying the knots. That's why I've had you sign your name on these stickers.
Right.
So if you'll just take one of those sticky stickers and wrap it around.
All the way around.
Please.
Just like that.
Or if you really want to get dramatic, you can have a sealing wax or something like that. Now, there's no way that I could untie this without breaking the seal.
Right, correct.
That's the point. Okay? This first mystery I'd like to show you is called the knot of enchantment. Now, to tie the knot of enchantment, I have to go into the fourth dimension. It just happens to be down here under the table. Watch. I go underneath and I say, la, 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 la. And I'm doing magic. Oh, I turn it counterclockwise. That's right. An amazing thing happens. See, I'm going into the fourth dimension, right? And look. Wow, you tied a good knot. That's great. And look, when I come up, almost as if by magic, there is a genuine overhand knot, just like that. Now, how do I undo this? Boy, this is going to be tough. Well, let me explain. Like I said before, you have to make sure the audience understands that you cannot untie the knots. But in order to explain it, I have to untie the knots. This is just for explanation, of course. In real life, you don't have to do that. But I figured if I have to take the knot out, I have to take off the knot like this. Okay? Okay. Now, there is no setup at all. None at all. You have the wrists tied. I'm going to make it easy on myself and just tie a very simple knot. All right? Say like that. This is just to make it easy for me to explain. But actually, you don't tie a slip knot when you really do this. You tie real knots, double knots, triple knots, as many as you'd like, seal the ends. Here's the secret. When you go under the table to tie a knot in the middle of the rope without untying the wrists, here's what you do. You take one piece of the rope that's near the wrist, you put it like this, you give it 2 twists, that's 1, that's 2. After giving it 2 twists, you put your hand through the loop, like that. Now, you take that loop, you put it underneath the part of the loop that's tied around the wrist, and you bring it all the way through, like this, all the way around. Now, it comes off, up, around the hand, and when it comes off, you actually end up with an overhand knot in the middle of the rope. This is called the knot of enchantment, and I thank you for your kind assistance. Now, there are many variations possible with this knot of enchantment principle. For example, you can have the wrists tied, borrow a finger ring, any ring will do, and while going into the fourth dimension, excuse me, you go down here and you just sort of like la, 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 la. You do this, you do this. Oh, well, you already know how the trick works anyway, but I just want to show you that while under cover of a handkerchief or a borrowed coat, you get the finger ring and look. It is on the rope and definitely knotted. There's absolutely no way, Jose, that can be removed, unless, of course, if you untie the wrists. That's the method or the secret or the, what is that? That's the effect. That's right, that's the effect. Here's the method. All it is it's the knot of enchantment that I explained just a moment ago, but with a finger ring. You get the finger ring. Remember, the wrists must be securely tied. Very important. But just to make it easy on myself, I'll do this. So it's the same as the other knot of enchantment. You just take the finger ring, you bite a little piece from the middle, put it through the ring like that. So actually that's like this. Now this loop that just went through, that's the part that goes underneath the wrist, up 2 twists. Trust me, it's important to do 2 twists. Sometimes if you do 1, it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. But 2 twists, it always works. It goes through the wrist, the rope that's around the wrist. It goes down, up, around the hand, and you have a knot of enchantment with a borrowed finger ring securely tied, like that. Now my wrists are still securely tied. Solid bracelet. Watch closely. As I go into the fourth dimension, once again, and I twist it counterclockwise. There we go. Boom. Solid ring, solid rope. Everything can be examined. Now this is a swindle. That's what it is. I cheated. Yes, I'll be the first to admit it. There are 2 bracelets, 2 rings, 2 harness rings. The secret is one is up the sleeve. So you hide that up the sleeve. Nobody should ever suspect a thing. The wrists can be tied. Once again, the knots can be sealed with tape or with sealing wax, and you have the duplicate here. All you have to do, of course, is either go into your lap and just drop this one in the lap, leave it there, reach into your sleeve and pull this one out. That's one way to do it. Another way is if you don't want to do this sitting down, you can do it under cover of a coat or a borrowed handkerchief. All you would do is take the original, slip it up one sleeve, pull the ring off the other sleeve, and you're just like that. Now, if you'd like to add a little extra bonus, you could do the knot of enchantment once the ring is on the rope, like this. Once it's on, just like the original knot of enchantment, you put one piece of the rope underneath, like this. 2 twists, remember. It goes down, through again, and off. And that way you could end up with the ring legitimately tied with an overhand knot, just like that. And that is called the bracelet on the rope. Now this is called the new bracelet on the rope. It does not use any duplicates, nothing up the sleeves, but it does use a very interesting bracelet, either a rubber mason jar ring, a large rubber band, or this is a flexible wire bracelet. Just like before, you go down into the 4th dimension. It goes like this. You turn it counterclockwise. Is this making perfect sense? And it comes up, and sure enough, there it is, right on the rope. This is an interesting method. It's something like the knot of enchantment. What you do is quite simple. Because this is flexible, you can treat it as if it was a loop of rope. You start by putting it over the wrist like this. It actually goes underneath the rope that's tied around the wrist. So now, technically, it's like up your sleeve. Then you can pull it out around your hand, and it's on the rope. So this is the new bracelet on the rope. Here's a little interesting do-as-I-do thing I've never seen before. It's called the Nautical Puzzle, and it's by Dean Longfellow. It's a very simple little thing. The reason it's called a do-as-I-do is the idea is the magician, that's you, does the little thing, and then you give the rope to the spectator and let them try, and of course, in theory, they can never duplicate it. This is very simple. All you do is you take the rope, put the middle over your thumb, give it a good solid tug. Definitely, it's on the thumb. And the idea is quickly, in fact, almost instantly, you get from this position into this position where you have a lark's head knot around the thumb and first finger. Doesn't look like much, but believe it or not, you can give this rope to a spectator and they cannot do it no matter how hard they try. It's very easy once you know the secret, and there's a little subtlety that I'd like to add. When you put the thumb like this, grab the opposite ends, pull towards yourself. You want to get the rope across the back of the thumb like that. The reason for that is the secret is you take the index fingertip, you reach clear across, you grab this part of the rope, put the fingertip inside, up, and around like that. Okay? The reason I say pull it this way, because if you do that, and this is the image that the spectator has in their mind, there's no way that your index finger or their index finger can reach across and grab it. So you do this in front of them, then when they're not looking, you just sort of put it like this, so it's hanging straight down. Behind your hand, you just take the tip of the index finger, reach across, grab a little bite, and pull it up like this. So that's the nautical do-as-I-do. Here's a little something called spectacles to monocle. It's another do-as-I-do thing. Some people use do-as-I-do effects as bar bets. They say, here's a little something very easy to do, and it looks easy, of course. Then you let the spectator try it, and of course, they can never do it. Before you give the rope to the spectator, you might want to make a friendly wager, like the restaurant tab or a round of drinks, that kind of thing. This is called spectacles to monocle because you start off with a piece of rope, and you make an impromptu pair of spectacles. Just by bringing the middle down, you end up with 2 loops. So those are the spectacles. This would be the monocle with just 1 loop. So you start off with spectacles like this. The fingers go inside like that, and the idea is to instantly transform it from spectacles to a monocle. And that's all there is to it. It looks easy enough, but when you try this, it's very, very difficult unless you know the secret. Here's the secret. start like this, bring the middle down, and you hold with your thumb right where it crosses. So that's like a lark's head knot, or the hitch knot. You put your fingers through like that. That's the spectacles, remember. All you have to do is curl your fingers inward like this. Now close it. Let go with your left thumb. Clip the rope and come up. So that's all there is to it. It doesn't look like much, but like I said, you try to get a spectator to do this, they could never duplicate it. So there's the spectacles. Bring your fingers down, clip, and come up. Let me show you once again from the front what it looks like. There's the rope. You bring the middle down. You've got the spectacles. And it's quick as a flash. You're from here to here, and the spectator can never duplicate this action. That way you too can win big buckolas. Here's another do-as-I-do effect called the gambler's knot. It looks extremely easy to do, but then, like I said before, when the spectator tries to duplicate the actions, they cannot. You start off with a piece of rope. You just lay it on the table like this. Very simply, you take one end with the left hand. The right hand goes underneath, and here, let me make it a little bit easier. I'll bring it about maybe 4 inches or less. That's good. You grab this end. Your arm goes through. You grab this end, and of course, you end up with a knot. Now, doesn't that look easy to do? In fact, you might want to get a piece of rope, lay it on the table just like this so that the ends are pointing towards yourself, and try it before you see how this is done. You grab one end with the left hand. The right hand goes underneath like this. You grab this end, and you end up with a knot. I realize it looks very, very easy, but just you try it and see. There's no trick to it. There's no trick at all. It's just when you're watching this from the opposite side, you get a little bit confused. What you do is you take your left hand, you pick up the left end of the rope, you pull it towards yourself as the right hand goes underneath the rope. But you don't go forward. What you do is you start to go forward, then you come back towards yourself, you pick up the right end of the rope, and you let the loop fall off the wrist, and you'll end up with a knot. Now, you give a piece of rope to a spectator and let them try it, and you'll be pleasantly surprised when you find out they have no idea how it was done. That's the gambler's knot. Here's an interesting do-as-I-do effect called the betcha knot. It's basically what is known as the instantaneous knot or the instant knot, but with a couple of little tiny subtleties. It looks very simple. Once again, you just take a piece of rope, one end in each hand, and it's important to remember the thumb and first finger, just like that. The other 3 fingers are completely out of the way. All you do is you start with a rope like this, you just bring the hands together, and when you separate your hands, you have a knot. That's all there is to it. But like all these other do-as-I-do effects, the spectator cannot duplicate the action, unless, of course, they know the secret. Here's the secret. You make a big thing about the fact that you're holding the ends with only the thumb and first finger of each hand, and they're both pointing upward. It's exactly the same. The difference is when you bring the hands together, the 3 fingers of your left hand come inward, clip, and that way the end points downward. Let me give you another view of this. You start like this. You separate the hands. Both ends are pointing up. The left hand, the fingers go behind the rope on your side of the rope, and that clips the rope between the first and second finger. Now when you let go with your thumb, the end now points downward. When you bring the hands together, you're going to clip the right end between the second and third finger of the left hand like this. At the same time, you're going to clip the left end between the second and third finger of the right hand. Now, I know that sounds complicated, but that's what you get. When you separate the hands, you have a knot. Okay? When the spectator tries that, they remember that you're holding it with the thumb and first finger only of both hands, and both ends are pointing upwards. If that's the starting position, no matter what you do, it won't make a knot. You have to secretly clip, so one end points downwards, bring the hands together, clip the opposite ends, separate the hands, and you've got a knot. That was the betcha knot. Now this do-as-I-do mystery is the hunter knot, not the hunter bow knot. This is a different hunter knot. Same hunter, J.W. Hunter. It's also known as the puzzle knot or the impossible knot. And what you do is you tie a knot in a piece of rope without letting go of the ends. So you start like this. It's a very complicated process. You put this over here, this goes through that way, it comes back the other way like this. I have not let go of the ends, but when you take it off your wrists, you see you end up with an ordinary overhand knot. That's the hunter impossible knot. Now the secret to this is you lie. You do let go of the ends, but it's done under cover of some misdirection. So let me give you another view on this, make it a little easier to follow. You start like this, one end in each hand. The right end, or the right part of the rope, goes over the left wrist, like that. Then it goes through, I hope you can see this, it goes through here and out here. Now, when you release the ropes from the back of your wrists, the right hand actually lets go of the end and it grabs onto the rope here. And this goes off of here. So that way you end up with a knot. Now, I know that's very subtle, and you do have misdirection that covers it. Let me do this again from the front so you can see what happens. You start like this. You make a big thing about the fact you never let go of the ends. It crosses over like that. You go in here, out here, like this. Now you're in perfect position, your right hand, to let go of the end of the rope and then instantly grab the end from here. And that's done as it comes off the wrist. Now there are many variations to this. A very simple variation is you can put a borrowed finger ring or a borrowed bracelet onto the rope, do the exact same set of moves, and it'll end up with the knot tied around the bracelet. Here's a very subtle thing. You start like this, you actually never do let go of the ends. You start the same action as the regular hunter knot. This, it goes in, it comes out, and you're in this position. You don't do anything tricky. You say, look, did I let go of the ends? They'll say no, because you didn't. You lay it down on the table, or you give the ends to a spectator, and you say, look, I still haven't done anything tricky, yet when you bring your wrists out, the spectator can pull on the ends, and there will be a knot. Now, this works all by itself. You don't actually let go of the ends until you give them to the spectator, and of course, then you have to let go of the ends. You can also tie the ends around your thumbs, or have the spectator do this. Now, you say, well, with the ropes tied, with the ends tied around my thumbs, there's no way I could cheat even if I wanted to. Can't cheat. There it is. Exactly the same set of moves. You make this loop, you go in, and then out. Now, right now, technically, there is not a knot in that rope. But when you give the ends to the spectator and you bring your hands out, they will pull on it, and there will be a knot. So there's a few ways of doing, or a few variations on the hunter impossible knot or the hunter puzzle knot. Now here's one more variation on do as I do. This is like the hunter puzzle knot, but this is called Neal's knot. It was invented by Robert E. Neal, and it looks like the regular hunter knot. The only difference is, well, I'll show you. You start like this, ends like that. You do the same type of actions without letting go of the ends, and now you give the ends to the spectator, and when they pull and you take the ropes off your wrist, they will be very surprised to find not a regular overhand knot, but this time you end up with a figure 8 knot. Now, it looks like the regular hunter knot, but actually it's done backwards. You start like this. The ends are pointing up. For the regular hunter knot, remember, the right hand goes over the left wrist, that way. But for Neal's knot, it goes the opposite direction from the back to the front like this. That's how you start. Then you go around here, towards yourself, and then like this and up. You give this to the spectator. When they pull on those ends and your wrists come out, you will end up with a figure 8 knot. So that's just another way to do the hunter bow knot, but you end up with a figure 8. That's Neal's knot. There are many ornamental knots or fancy pants knots. We like to call them flourish knots. It's just a decorative way of tying a quick knot. This first one is called the one-hand or the one-handed knot. All you do is you drape the rope over the back of the hand like this, and then instantly you end up with an overhand knot. This is actually pretty easy to do. It's a lot easier than it looks. You just drape it over the back of the hand. It helps a little bit if the back strand is a little bit longer than the front strand. Now, to get that front strand out of the way, the little finger and ring finger clip and move it like that. Okay? Now, what you're going to do is the index finger and second finger, first and second finger of the right hand, is going to reach down and clip this end. Then you're going to let everything drop off the wrist, and that will give you a knot. Now, at regular speed, it looks like this. There's the rope. Move this out of the way, and quickly reach down, grab that, and you've got an instant one-handed knot. Here's a variation of the one-handed knot. It's called the one-hand necktie knot. It looks exactly the same as the regular one-hand knot. The only difference is you use a longer piece of rope. You hold it like this. Very quickly, you reach down and you get that. Now, when you do this with a necktie, it looks exactly as if it's a regular necktie knot. It's very similar to the regular one-handed knot. The only difference is you don't reach down and actually clip the end. What you do is you make sure that the back part of the rope is considerably longer than the front part, like this. You reach down, you clip about the middle, about here. That way, when you drop it off the wrist, you have what's really like a giant slip knot. But if you do this, like I say, with a necktie, it looks like you've made a necktie knot. I'll do it once again. You hold the rope like this, just like the regular one-handed knot. You move that strand out of the way with the first and second finger of the right hand. You clip about halfway down on the back strand, like that. And you have an instant necktie knot. Another way to do this that was invented by Flip Helema is to double the rope over. So it's the same as the regular one-handed knot, but you double the rope over like this. So now when you reach down and you tie a regular one-handed knot with a doubled rope, you end up like that. So that looks something like a necktie knot as well. So that's the one-handed necktie knot. Next, we have a one-handed figure 8 knot. It looks the same as a regular one-hand knot. The difference is you end up with, instead of an overhand knot, a figure 8 knot. So here's the rope. You hold it about like this. You just reach down, and there you have it, a figure 8 knot. I must admit, it wasn't exactly one-handed. You cheat. What you do is you set up the rope as if you're going to do the one-handed knot like that, but the left hand does not let go of the end. Okay? So you start like this, you drape it over the back of the hand, but do not let go of that end. You move the little finger and ring finger of the right hand to clip the rope there. Now, instead of reaching down to grab this end, which would make an overhand knot, what you do is you hold onto this end, you reach down, and you clip this end here with these fingers while you're still holding that. So you start like this. That's about like that. You reach down, not letting go here, grab that, and when that comes through, that will give you a figure 8 knot. Now, I realize you say it's a one-handed figure 8 knot. It isn't exactly, but I don't think anybody's going to complain. So that's the one-handed figure 8 knot. Here we have what is known as nifty knots. Watch closely. Left over right, from my perspective, the left over the right. If you take the middle, put it over the top like this, absolutely nothing happens. I know you find that hard to believe, so let me do it again. Left, my left, over my right. Grab the middle, put it over the top. One end in each hand, absolutely nothing happens. You may not be amazed at this point, but let me do it one last time exactly the same as before. Left over right, grab the middle, put it over the top, but if you snap your finger and then take one in each hand and pull, you have a knot. Isn't that nifty? That's why it's called the nifty knot. Now, this is very simple. It actually looks exactly the same all 3 times. The left goes over the right. You hold it where it crosses. Here's the difference. You take the middle, bringing it in towards yourself, put it over the top like that. If you do it this way, absolutely nothing happens. I'll do that again. The left goes over the right. You take the middle towards you. That's important. If it goes towards you before it goes up to the top, nothing will happen. But if you do it one last time, left over right, grab the middle, but this time you bring it away from you. Put it on top. You snap your finger, you end up with a knot. That's the only difference. It's always left over right. It's just the first 2 times you bring the middle towards you. The last time you bring it away from you. That's the only difference. But you don't want to make it big and obvious. Try to make them as similar looking as possible. So what I normally do is cross, grab it, and either you just give it a little twist that way or a little twist this way. They look exact. Doesn't that look the same? It comes up and it goes here. That's towards me. It comes up and it goes here. That's away from me. They look very similar, but one will tie a knot and the other will not. That is the nifty knot. Here's a little something I found in a book called The Vanishing Knot Flourish, and I found out really all it is the nifty knot done in reverse. Allow me to demonstrate. Remember, the nifty knot was left over right. You grab the middle, go away from you. That forms the knot. To make it disappear, you do the same thing in reverse. Right over left, grab the knot away from you, put it over the top, and when you pull, the knot will disappear. That's all there is to it. The nifty knot in reverse makes the knot disappear. Here's another amusing little way to make a knot disappear. An ordinary knot, just a regular overhand knot like this. Instead of going through the action of untying it, the normal way, the way a normal person would do it, here's a quickie little method. You just clip one of the ends like this, drop it off your wrist, and that puppy's gone. Now all it is a regular overhand knot. You put the knot around your fingers like this. Now this is important. One strand of the rope goes underneath. See how this strand is going underneath, and that's closest to the thumb? That's the part that you clip. So when everything falls off your hand, that basically turns it into a slip knot, and the knot disappears. So here's the overhand knot. The knot goes on the hand like this. You just clip one end, drop it off your wrist, and you have an instant vanishing knot. Here's a little something we call the flip knot. Start off with just a piece of rope like this, and with practice, you can instantly flip a knot. It takes a little more practice than I originally thought. A little flip, there it is, a perfect overhand knot. Now, the secret is it's a scam. You don't do it with one hand. You start with a knot already in the rope like this. You just hide it so it's concealed. So it looks like just a regular piece of rope. You pretend like you're going to do something fancy, a little flip of the wrist, and nothing happens. Well, it takes more practice. This time what you do is you bring up the end and you just switch ends. You bring this end a little closer to your thumb and you hold it. Now when you flip the second time, you just let the opposite end go. That's the end that has the knot in it from before, and it gives the impression that you just flipped the rope and made an instant knot. This is called the flip knot. Here's an interesting variation of the flip knot called the MGM flip knot, because Mike Maxwell just suggested, hey, why not do the flip knot, but instead of ending with an overhand knot, with a little extra practice, perhaps you can end up with, a bow knot. Well, the method is, of course, exactly the same as the original flip knot. You just tie a bow knot somewhere near the end of the rope, say about there. Close it up a little bit. That makes it considerably easier to hide in your hand, but make it so that they can still recognize it as a bow. So you start off like before. You say, watch closely. Oop, not exactly. Takes a little more practice. You switch the ends. So now when you do it the second time, you show the bow knot. And that is the MGM flip knot. You may realize by now that the possibilities are endless. See, I'm giving you little pieces, and you can combine them any way you want. We have now the MGM flip knot number 2, another Mike Maxwell idea. You could start off with a piece of rope, and you give it a little flip. Oh, wait, I forgot. Counterclockwise. There we go. And you end up with a lovely little knot. But in this variation, the knot will slide right off, just like that. Well, as you may have guessed, because this is the flip knot variation number 2-C, you start off with a regular knot like this, the fake knot. You just thread it on like that, and you hide it in your hand. That's very important that you hide it in your hand. So you bring out the rope. Wait, first let me get it through like this. You say, lovely piece of rope, a little flip like this, and you have a knot. Just like before, you switch ends, and now you have this knot. You can very cleanly take it right off. So that's MGM flip knot number 2. Well, guess what? We just came up with another one. This one, let's just call it, for example, MGM flip knot number 3. Are you going anywhere? You got a minute? Here's another version. You have a finger ring, a lovely piece of rope, and you can either try to flip a knot onto the rope and the ring at the same time with practice. Oh, look at that. The ring knotted onto the rope. Now, that's one way to do it. You use a duplicate ring. Duplicate ring, 2 rings. One, of course, is already knotted on the rope. You just do the old flip knot thing. and you've got that. Now, Mike also mentioned, hey, how about if you start with a regular overhand knot just like this? So you can bring out the rope, bring out your ring or take your ring off. Right in front of the audience, you can tie an overhand knot just like that. So they see the knot, they see the ring like this, and you go like this, nothing happens. Oh, wait, I forgot to blow. You blow, you throw it, and boom, you've got the ring knotted onto the rope. Just another variation. This is a technique that can be used in many rope tricks. I'll go through it very slowly. If you want to make a knot, of course, that's the easiest way to do it, but why do things the easy way? I'm a magician. I do things the hard way. Watch closely. A one-handed knot like this. In fact, I'll start like that, faster than the speed of sight. There it is, a one-handed knot. Now, I call this the fake unknot. The reason for that is this is a technique where it looks like you're unknotting the knot, but actually you do not. You tie a regular knot, make it pretty tight, and it just looks like you untie it. I remember Slidini used to do this quite a bit. And you haven't done anything. So you have the knot here. When you pretend to untie it, all you do is you fold a little bite of rope like this. You pinch it, and you pull on that little bite. Now, you're concealing the knot behind your fingers, but you pretend like you're untying the knot, like that. So remember, the knot is actually still here. Now, if you put this behind your hand, so now the knot is hidden behind your hand, you can take the strand that's going across the palm, clip it like this. All you do is you just shake your hand, and that brings that into full view. So that is the fake unknotting technique. We come now to my personal favorite fancy pants knot or flourish knot. This is called the William Tell knot. I have no idea where this is written up, and I have looked. This is just something I learned about 20 years ago from a friend probably at a magic club. You take a regular piece of rope, you tell the story about William Tell. Remember the apple? That's the apple stem. This is the actual apple itself, and of course this would be the arrow. The idea is to shoot the arrow off of his son's head, and it goes right through, and that is the William Tell knot. Now, it's actually very easy to do. You need to use rope that's got a little bit of give to it. You want a little bit of spring, so if you pull it taut and let go, it'll shoot. That's important. Obviously, this will not work very well with chain or twine or something like that. So here's what you do. One end points up. That will act as the apple stem. You make a loop going away from your body toward the audience. You open up these fingers, grab. The fingers then go in front like that, and it comes down. And then these two fingers go in front like that. Now, I know that's, you could see what's happening, just like that. Now, if you pull the rope taut, so you get a little bit of spring action, let go, it'll actually go right through. You hold on to the apple stem with your thumb and first finger, let everything else fall, and that way you will end up with the overhand knot. Let me do this once again from the front. The William Tell knot. There's the apple stem, there's the actual apple, and there's the arrow. Right through. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the William Tell knot. Here's a lovely little mystery called Floyd Thayer's Wizzo. An ordinary pair of scissors, a piece of cardstock or a piece of pretty heavy-duty paper, which I'll fold into like a little tube or a little tunnel, and a borrowed piece of rope. All you do is, of course, you put the rope right about here, like that. So far, it looks pretty good. And I'll fold it in. Now, that looks pretty fair. In fact, it is fair. But it must be exactly right, just like that. Now, if it's nice and even, then you can cut right through the middle with the scissors. And if everything's done properly, little massage right here, hop, and you have a restoration extraordinaire. Now, this is a very simple trick, very, very easy to do. It's actually pretty subtle. All you do is you have a piece of paper. It should be pretty heavy stock, like index card stock would be good. Disregard the artwork. That's a little extra bonus, no extra charge. And you fold a little bit less than 1/3 of it over, and then you fold about like that. Okay? Now, here's what happens. You put the rope inside from this angle, and when you fold the paper closed, you fold one side down first, and secretly you pull a little bit of the rope over like that before you fold the other side. Now, you don't pull it so far that it actually is exposed. you just pull it so that it's not actually right up against that corner. It's just pulled up a little bit like that. Now that's important because this way you can show it from the front and the back. It looks very fair. Now here's the subtle part. When you pinch the lower part with your left hand like this, the rope is actually above the thumb. It's hard to see, but there it is. Yeah, I'll pull it back. There you go. So you can't tell because the paper's folded, but when you pull the rope back and forth, that sort of causes it to rise up above the edge of the paper. Now remember, the audience is over there. This is your view. Don't let the audience see this. And when it comes time to cut, all you do is you take the scissors, place them underneath like this, underneath the rope. So when you cut like that, you actually do not cut through the rope. You just do a little massage, you pull this through, you have the restoration, and you can hand out these two pieces. That is Floyd Thayer's Wizzo. Here's a very novel version of the cut and restored rope. You actually come out with a package. A friend of mine sent me this package, and being thrifty, shall we say, what I do is when I open the package, it just cut through like any normal person. But then you have to throw the string away, or you throw away the cord, or the rope, or the ribbon, whatever they use. Well, I'm also a magician, and I realize that if you take this and give a little trim here, a little trim there, another one over here, and one over here, you end up with a lovely little knot, and if you do this just right, you can massage that knot between your fingers, and that way you can use the same rope over and over again. Now this is called Rope Saver. I found this in the Tarbell course of magic. All you do is you start off with a piece of rope, and you have to get the box first. Wrap the rope around the box as you normally would. You cross it and leave a few extra inches to tie the knot. Okay? So in other words, you don't know exactly how long the rope should be until you decide what box you're going to use, because that makes a big difference. Now here's what you do. To prepare, you tie the hunter bow knot. It doesn't have to be the hunter bow knot, but just the first part, a regular bow, just like that. Okay? Now you take this bow and you put it like this. Now from your point of view, you've got one end of the rope pointing up, another end pointing towards your right. You take the part that's pointing up, you wrap it completely around the box like this, and it goes through the loop that is on your left. Pull it through the loop, tighten the loop, and that's the first part. Now you do the same thing with the other rope that's pointing towards your right. It goes around the box, and it goes through the loop, and you pull. This is Tony Lopalito, Rope Saver. Now if you pull on that loop, that will tighten as well. So what you've got is you've got that bow knot in the middle, and you've got the ends pushed through. So that's the preparation. If you want to clean it up a little bit, you can just sort of trim like this and like this. Now this is very important. If you started with the bow knot in the middle, and one end went forward around like this, and the second end went around like that, then you have to cut on the left side and the bottom side. That's very important. So you get the scissors, you cut on your left, and you cut on the bottom side like that, and everything comes off. Now what this is actually the bow knot, but then it's got two little pieces through the loops of the bow. Now you can actually just pull the pieces out, or if you'd like, you can cut and pull a little piece out, cut and pull a little piece out, and what you've got left is the bow knot. And just by blowing or massaging that bow knot shows the restoration. And that is called the Rope Saver.